In a small forgotten town on the edge of the highway, where dreams often faded before they could bloom, lived a boy named Daniel, a 15-year-old with a heart full of music but a life weighed down by poverty, loss, and loneliness. Yet the sparkle in his eyes never died because deep inside he carried a voice that had the power to heal wounds he himself carried every single day. And though his family barely had enough to eat, and his clothes were worn and patched more times than he could count, the one thing he treasured was an old, beaten-up guitar that his late father had left him. The strings rusted, the wood cracked, but whenever Daniel touched it, he felt like his father's spirit guided his hands, reminding him that life, no matter how harsh, could still sing back hope. And on days when the hunger in his stomach was louder than his own thoughts, he would sit near the roadside diner where truck drivers came and went, singing softly to himself, not for money, not for recognition, but because music was the only way he could breathe, the only way to silence the pain of losing his parents so young. Until one evening, while strumming Hotel California, with trembling hands and a shaky voice, a stranger paused, listening intently, then dropped a crumpled flyer at his feet, saying with a smile, "Kid, you've got something special, you should try out for the auditions in the city. Who knows, it might change your life." And Daniel, clutching that flyer as though it were a golden ticket, didn't sleep that night, his heart racing with both fear and excitement, because the thought of singing on a real stage felt impossible, almost laughable, but something in him whispered that maybe, just maybe, it was worth trying. And so, with borrowed bus fare given by the kind diner owner who had watched him grow, Daniel boarded a bus to the city the next morning, his guitar wrapped in an old blanket, his heart pounding like a drum. And when he arrived at the massive auditorium, he was overwhelmed by the bright lights, the sea of confident contestants with designer clothes, shiny instruments, and supportive families, while he stood alone in a faded shirt and worn-out shoes, clutching a guitar that looked like it belonged in the trash. Yet he reminded himself why he was there, not for fame, not for wealth, but to let the world hear the song his father had taught him, the song that had carried him through his darkest nights. And when his number was finally called, Daniel stepped onto the stage, blinking under the harsh lights, facing the panel of judges whose expressions were already skeptical, whispering among themselves as they eyed his appearance, one even muttering, "He doesn't look ready for this." But before doubt could crush him, Daniel closed his eyes, pressed the strings gently, and let the haunting chords of Hotel California flow, his voice raw, trembling at first, then rising with unexpected strength, carrying with it every tear he had ever shed, every loss, every night spent hungry and alone. And the audience, who moments ago had barely noticed him, fell silent, listening as though time itself had paused, because his voice wasn't just singing, it was storytelling, painting pictures of pain and hope in the same breath. And halfway through, when he reached the soaring lines of the chorus, something magical happened. The judges who had heard thousands of auditions before, hardened by the routine of endless performances, suddenly felt their eyes sting with tears, one judge burying her face in her hands, another leaning forward as if pulled by an invisible force. And by the time Daniel sang the final haunting note, the room was in complete silence, followed by an eruption of applause, people rising to their feet, some crying openly, and the judges, unable to hold back, stood up too, clapping with trembling hands, tears rolling down their cheeks, because what they had just witnessed was not simply a performance, it was a glimpse into the soul of a boy who had nothing yet gave everything. And as Daniel lowered his guitar, staring in disbelief at the standing ovation, one of the judges spoke through tears, saying, "Daniel, you reminded us why music exists. It's not about perfection, it's about truth, and you gave us truth tonight." And another added, "This stage has seen stars, but what we saw in you is a miracle." And suddenly, the world that had always turned its back on Daniel opened wide, as news of his performance spread like wildfire. Clips of him singing Hotel California, shared across social media, millions watching, not just because of the song, but because of the boy behind it, the boy who carried sorrow and turned it into beauty. And strangers from across the globe reached out, sending messages of love, donations, even offers to help him study music, while people in his hometown, who once passed him by without a second glance, gathered to cheer for him, proud that one of their own had touched the world. And Daniel, though overwhelmed by the sudden flood of attention, never forgot the truth he carried in his heart, that music wasn't about fame, it was about connection, about healing, about reminding people that no matter how broken life seemed, there was always a song left to be sung, always a spark left to be shared. And in the weeks that followed, as he returned to the competition stage for the next round, with a borrowed suit and a new guitar gifted by one of the judges, he remembered the moment when his voice had made them cry, and he smiled softly, because he knew his father was watching from somewhere, proud of the boy who had taken his song to the world. and in that moment Daniel realized something even greater than winning the competition. He realized that he had already won, because he had given hope to others who felt unseen, unheard, unloved, and his story became a testament that no matter how poor, how broken, or how forgotten someone might be, their voice, their truth, their courage could still touch the hearts of millions, reminding humanity of its deepest truth, that kindness, compassion, and the courage to share your gift could change the world, one song at a time.